Hey, Alex. Wow, this is exciting to see what you've done here this week. I can see that you're enthralled with the power of editing at this point and using Photoshop to dramatically transform what would be interesting but not super great pictures into something amazing. In other words, the power of editing, really, really pushes the envelope in terms of personal expression, and photography becomes then far more than just take a picture of what you think was there as a memory and pushes it towards expression and creativity. Anyway, um, you have a very a strong hand on it this week, and it's exciting, but one could also argue that maybe it's pushed a little too hard. But then that becomes an interpretive issue about um, personal intent and so on. All right, let's go through these. So we have a mix of color and black and white. I was going to do a quick edit for you on how to straighten up the horizon line. I think in general they'd be stronger if we would get that horizon line parallel to the edge of the frame here. But adding all this contrast and light to the sky and the water has really created a very dramatic effect here. In this case, I would darken the sky here a bit and bring the light down. Otherwise, it's very good, sort of like you've done here. This is darker, and this has a lot of light presence. My comment on this one is I don't get quite the why the edges are fading out here like that. So this one is fairly weak. It's got the off-center or out of parallel horizon line and a blown out sky, so not one of my favorites. This is exciting. Again, you've brought the light into the seawall here and given a dramatic sky. Let's keep moving. I'm not sure why there's a break in tone right here, although I guess this blowout from the setting sun is what's creating this demarcation. All right. Okay. So tons of contrast, and it's sort of like you've been driving a Volkswagen Beetle and somebody suddenly puts a Ferrari in your driveway, and you step on the gas and you say, oh my god, this is not a Volkswagen Beetle. Whoops, this one's bigger, so it's a little out of the frame here. Let's keep going. Alright, I'm going to pause the video while I get this bigger. Nope, I can't do that actually mid-frame, so I'm going to keep going. Actually, I have another way of doing this. Let's see if I... Nope. Alright, well, you'll get the idea. Your picture is bigger than the size of the frame that I'm recording in, and without starting over, I can't change it. But anyway, let's keep going. Yes, I was saying drama here and power. This one's pretty good. I really like this little wave being caught. The evening light, that's key here. Showing up at the beach in the evening when the light is getting dramatic. I love these two little figures running along here. And it's all about light and all about structure. There's a branch of photography called HDR, which is high dynamic range. And normally, not sure if you're using the HDR tools in Photoshop. You didn't quite describe what you did here. But if you're shooting in RAW, you can get control over the contrast. And then when you bring it back into Photoshop and you start doing feathered selections, bringing the light and the contrast up, it basically is compressing the dynamic range from shadow to highlight, because The sky is much brighter than the land is, and here you've compressed it down. Um, and Good. Also, let's see, keep going. Every one of these, though, you're not dealing with the horizon line. I'm zoomed in tight here on the. There's a little picnic group here. Dramatic sky. The color version. Yeah, I'm gonna. If I go to this, whoops. Wow. Hold on. I love your 4-year-old son and the kite here. It's great for him. So, it's kind of nice light in here. Definitely dramatic here. So one question I have is a copy image. Let's bring it into Photoshop. I can show it that way here. Paste image. Oops. All right, let's do that. Kind of not wild about keeping the horizon line not parallel to the edge, and it's simply to fix that. When you're shooting, I'd rather you be not so slowed down by taking the time to stop what you were doing in order to fix that. So we can do that in Photoshop. I click on the crop tool, then I click on the picture, and I get this grid of lines here. And as I go out to a corner, I can click and drag that and swing that around like that. And then it's not, because I have Photoshop so tightened down here, you don't see the check mark. But I can just hit enter, or I can hit the move tool, and it'll say crop the image, and that works too. Right, okay, so let me move that out of the way. Here's a case in point too, where when you're photographing the sky, especially looking straight at the sun like this, the dynamic range between the amount of light in the sky and the foreground is way beyond, way beyond anything your camera sensor is able to capture in the same frame. And that's where high dynamic range comes in. What HDR shooting generally involves is making an exposure for the sky and then making another exposure for the land. And the sky will then be blown out, all destroyed, and you'll have a good exposure on the land. And then in Photoshop, you combine those two, sky and land. There are some HDR plugins that you can use, and some of the iPhones now have HDR routines where it'll take 3 or 4 pictures in quick succession and then combine them. Here's a case where you're trying to bring up the light down here. What ends up happening is you pick up noise also. It's pretty exciting. So, good job. My question is, at what point do you push it too hard where it becomes unreal? Or where does that expression really capture what you're trying to do? Here, I'm going to copy this image and put it in Photoshop, File, New, and Clipboard, Create, Control V to paste it. Oops. And crop tool, click on it, click out here, and straighten that horizon line just a little bit. Enter twice, and crop it here. Here's the before and the after, before and after. It's a small thing, and yet a cleaned up horizon line announces your intention with more clarity. Basically, that's the issue. And every one of these has that going on, and sometimes it's more, sometimes it's less. So the other thing, it's exciting to see how you're editing. At what point does it become too much, and at what point is it just right? This one is a big 0. Darken the sky a little bit. And the fact that you've pushed it to this point means that you have the ability to get there and then dial it back. In other words, to arrive at your ultimate perfect vision of what you intended here when you have control over that. So see you there. See you on the blog. Take care.